Welcome everyone, I'm DarkHour717 and this is the week's news review for the week ending 21st of May 2022. This is where I'm going to go into all the latest information from the last week in the Star Citizen universe. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as I continue to reach for the 5,000 subscriber mark. I want to say thank you to all of you that have already subscribed and say how much I appreciate it. Stick around till the end of the video though to see how you can get entered in for a chance to win a Mist Expanse with LTI and Stardust Paint. And remember, we have our YouTube subscriber screenshot contest running through the end of Invictus. Details are going to be on the community page for entering. So this week has been absolutely jam-packed with all our regular sources of new information, plus the launch of Invictus, which we're going to get into that a bit later. It has been less than ideal though. To get us started though, we'll just jump right in with this past Monday's This Week in Star Citizen. We saw this come in mentioning the typical lore post for Tuesday and mentioned the details for the free flight event would be announced on Wednesday. Of course, our usual Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live would be at their regular scheduled times, and kickoff for Invictus would be coming on Friday. Many fans and players, of course, being most excited for the launch of Invictus 2952. Tuesday's lore post was from the Terra Gazette entitled, "What Does the Future Hold for Suj Kosi?" Suj Kosi is the Tavaran senator from Elysium who was a key speaker at this year's Universal Strategic Vision Conference, or USVC. With the success of his speech questioning the abilities and the accomplishments of Imperator Addison, it seemed he was being primed for his own political aspirations with a larger future ahead of him. Being the first Tavaran ever elected to the Senate, throughout his term he continued to grow in popularity and easily won a second term, which saw a wide array of citizens backing him as his political clout grew. The story goes through and covers most of Senator Kosi's history of working with Imperator Addison's cabinet, as well as the effect of Tavaran voters on the system. With a focus of easing the citizenship process for Tavarans, the story really captures the road Senator Kosi is taking towards higher aspirations in politics, and even placing third in a straw poll for potential 2960 Imperator runs. The story itself dives into the politics of this rising star and is worth a read. Fairly short, it continues the look the lore gives into how the politics of the Stanton system run. Wednesday, we did get the announcement for the free flight. Of course, no roadmap roundup as it is an off week. We also received the letter from the chairman. Looking at the free flight first, though, we did learn there would be no referral bonus this time around. And that did create a little bit of salt on the Spectrum pages, but honestly, I really question why as many express the feeling of being unappreciated due to not receiving a free item for referring a friend. In my opinion, these are extra on the top of an already generous referral program that is always running year round. As with the base program, you receive the 1000 AUEC with each referral, and as well as build up points that work along a scale that will provide for additional perks. Granted, some of the lower tiers are things like gimbals and guns, but these are still free items being received. Of course, as one does obtain referrals, the benefits do increase all the way up to a javelin. I see the referral bonus as strictly added and not guaranteed perk. And for those out there that say I only have so many friends that I can refer, well, there's always the option out there, such as randomizers like on the Star Citizen subreddit. You can enter your code in and it'll rotate it through a pool of people getting codes from there. There are actually a number of these sites that you can enter your code into so it can be circulated out there for others to use. I do highly recommend using these sites and get your code out there because you have nothing to lose and only more to gain. I'll include a link to a few of these sites in the description. The letter from the chairman did go out on Wednesday, and while this is a very lengthy read, it absolutely is packed with information. I highly recommend reading it when you have a bit of time, and the link is going to be in the description below. But I will cover a few takeaways from it, and the letter starts out as review over the last year and the lessons learned and the effects the pandemic has had on a developing game and company. The realization that while safety requires the ability to work at home, and this made it possible to continue development, that being in the office and having more direct influence with each other is much more beneficial. Chris Roberts also reflects over the growth that Star Citizen has seen over the last 2 years, with some huge milestones being mentioned as well as projections. And of course, he credits this to not only their own work, but the contributions of all the backers as well. Some of those milestones are definitely over 2,000 new players each day joining the verse. Daily active users have grown over 50% since December of 2020. Doubling the daily login traffic over the last April 2021 patch launch, nearly 1 million new accounts since April 2021 patch launch with 500,000 pledging, and this past week we saw the 2 millionth unique player ID login into the verse. Some of the projections are to reach over 4 million total accounts with 1 million unique logins this year alone, and surpassing 500 million in lifetime revenue. These are all huge accomplishments, and I can say not surprising to me at all. He goes on and looks at the difference of what we have today compared to what the original crowdfunding was proposing, the vast differences of the progress and added items in the gameplay. After that, Chris Robert goes into the road to 4.0, and this also has quite a lot of information in it. We will learn what items are needed for the server meshing and the components required for it. We learn about the persistent entity stream, or PES, and the fact that it is the largest part of getting server meshing to work. They do provide a timeline that is very detailed in the future of the path to 4.0 and full server meshing. The overview continues to go on detailing the steps that they have gone through, as well as will still need to go through to get to patch 4.0. So what does that mean for us as far as testing, and what will we experience as players? Well, it means that 3.18 will be approached differently than before. 3.18 is going to require a much longer evocati and PTU phase than any previous patch. Their anticipation is 3.18 could be in PTU for as long as 3 months, and they do state though that this is a guess, as predictions as to what will occur is difficult, as it's all based on what players are going to do. Cargo refactor and salvage has been designed not for the current system, but for the PES system. And one key thing is this allows wrecks from PvP battles to persist, so salvagers will benefit, and these are scheduled to also come in with 3.18. This means we will receive a patch 3.17.2 so that there is not a stall on content. And this patch is going to include known stable code, new missions, new locations, and more gameplay in late June. This will allow for the needed time to test 3.18. This allows for the ability to get that full 2 to 3 months testing in PTU for 3.18 with a potential release to live in late Q3. Which then brings us to 4.0, which will be a huge milestone in Star Citizen, as it brings in server meshing, starting with static server meshing, where each server has a defined area to simulate. Once stable though, they're going to actually move that over to dynamic server meshing, which introduces more scalability, as servers are not bound by the location but will be distributed by load to provide better simulation performance in any given area of the game. And of course with 4.0 we'll see the introduction of Pyro, and currently they do have a goal of getting 4.0 to evocati at end of Q4 this year, and possibly live towards the end of Q1 next year. Of course, with the number of factors involved in the scale of what is being accomplished, this is not set in stone, and it's always subject to change. Though this still allows for their usual 4 big end of quarter releases, as well as the 2 big mid-quarter releases, which consist of IAE and Invictus. We will continue to also see further development on Xenothreat, Jumptown, and Ninetales events, as well as others. After that, Chris Roberts delves into the information on Manchester and the Frankfurt studios, and then goes on to speak about CitizenCon and the fact that it is going to be digital again this year. With hopes that next year they'll be able to return to an in-person CitizenCon, it is more beneficial though to keep it digital for this year, as the labor hours required to produce a live event are going to be better put towards the road to 4.0. Of course, we will cover this through a live stream just as we did last year, and invite everyone to join us. They do plan on resuming Bar Citizen World Tour this summer in conjunction with the first Contact Day celebration. This will actually kick off the International Bar Citizen Day in mid-June, as events will be held simultaneously near all the studios, and later expanding out to areas outside of the studios' surrounding areas. In closing, Chris Roberts mentions the future and how big it is, bringing in all the advancements, as well as giving thanks to all the teams that are a part of CIG that don't get much recognition. And these teams really exist in the background outside of the development area, as well as giving thanks to all the players and backers for their contributions. The letter itself is really well written and does give a sense of a lot of thought. Along with that, it really gives us a lot of information throughout the entire letter. I recommend reading the letter in full if you have the chance though. This of course brings us to Thursday and Inside Star Citizen, and this week it was Unto the Breach, where we get a look into the newest concept ship, the Legionnaire. This will be available at Invictus and is a new type of ship to the verse, a boarding ship. This is a very welcome addition to the verse, which introduces forceful boarding and takeover of other ships and stations. With a universal docking collar, there are few limits as to what you can attach to. Hacking capabilities allow for the takeover of a ship's systems, and in times this is not an option, the use of breaching charges will be available to gain entry. Useful for lawful or unlawful use, this will make our individual ships no longer the safe havens that we have now. The ship itself is concepted with a 2-man crew and an 18-member boarding party with available jump seats. 2 size 2 remote turrets, 3 size 1 shield generators, and it has a length of 32 meters, a width of 23.3 meters, and a height of 10.2 meters. Overall, it's just a hair smaller than the Drake Cutlass Black. This thing really looks more like a strange crossbreed between the Cuddy and the Terrapin, and it's available for $100 as a war bond or $120 as a standalone ship. I really think this is a great addition, and currently this is shown on the anvil floor at Invictus in a holo viewer. After that, we take a look at Invictus with the narrative team and the event itself, looking at the background of its events and the lore within the Star Citizen universe that brought about the celebration. It's an interesting look at the stories and backgrounds that they put into all the happenings throughout the verse. Thursday, we also got the release of 3.17.1, and to say it went flawless would be hardly the truth. The patch itself launched the day before Invictus was to kick off, and right off the bat we experienced a number of issues. From long load times and server queues just to get to menus, once in we actually saw a number of inventory issues occurring as well. Now we were able to manage through Thursday night, having ran several bounties, then Friday is when it really seemed to take a turn for the worse. Several issues were seen with elevators, rubber banding, inventory management, buying items from kiosks or displays, as well as inability to claim ships. We were still able to make it over to the showroom in order to see the anvil floor, and the layout was nice and basically a reskin of the New Babbage showroom, but in a nicer, darker blue color. Where we ran into problems here was with the ability to rent ships. When trying to interact at first, it seems the rental prompt would just not come up, but found out that you actually have to be just in the right spot. Usually meaning you have to move back from the ship that you wanted to rent to get the icon. We then also found that a number of people were only receiving errors when selecting the rent icon and in turn unable to rent some of the ships. Another issue we ran into was a high number of crashes to desktop, which was higher than normal. And when Invictus first did load in, there was also an issue that was causing the Ninetales FPS mission to activate, and when people tried to accept and head to the mission, it would turn into a 30k for the servers. Later, we did find out that this was not intended to release with Invictus and was not supposed to have been activated, and a hotfix was implemented to correct this. The event itself is having a number of issues, and these can be a major frustration, as well as an annoyance. It is not on the level of what we saw a couple years ago, though, with Invictus back in 2020. I will say, though, that SIG does do everything possible to ensure an event goes smooth, and the fact that this is still a game in development can at times create these situations. I am sure that CIG is working to try to resolve any and all of these issues possible while the event continues. And while the free flight is going on, I'm reluctant to put all the blame on the free flight for all the issues that are going on, because you have to keep in mind that the majority of all these issues were occurring before the free flight actually launched. I do not see these issues being the nail in the coffin per se for Invictus, but I think we do all need to keep in mind that this is the nature of game development. Time will tell, and if these issues start to clear up, it can still be an amazing event. Also announced on Thursday is the Dunlow Derby, and that is going on now during Invictus, and I'll include a link to the video for this, as it is a race-style competition for best time through the area of Orison, following a specific path. All players have received a Pisces C8X in their ASOP in order to participate if they would like to, and check out the video for the details. But of course, after the launch of Invictus, we saw Star Citizen Live, as we usually do on Fridays, and this week it was a roundtable with the AI content feature team. Though this felt a little more dragged out than other weeks, it's possible that could be due to nearly a quarter of the show being used just for the introductions. They did eventually move on into the more normal questions, and I would say it was a fairly normal roundtable Q&A session that they held, just as they usually do, with some interesting looks into some of the game development of Star Citizen, as well as a look into things that we'll see, such as the ability to interact with power systems and fuses, and how they will work throughout the ships. They also discussed the way in which the NPC crew in-game will operate, what kind of actions and such that they'll be able to perform, and how they behave. The show itself, like I said, is a typical Q&A style and has some interesting points, so I definitely recommend checking out the full show. And that's about it for the week. We have Anvil Showroom now going till Sunday the 22nd, and then it'll go to Aegis along with our first limited hull ship sale with the Javelin. I hope everyone is at least getting a chance to get in and see the show between the bugs, and do not forget to get your entries in for a chance to win a Misk Expanse with LTI and Stardust Paint. All you gotta do is to subscribe and leave a comment on any video here on YouTube, and you'll automatically be entered. You can also double your chances by heading over to Twitch and giving a follow over there, and you'll get a second entry. Check out the community tab though here on YouTube, and you'll be able to get all the details on how to enter our subscriber screenshot contest running through the end of Invictus. First place is going to be a Drake Cutlass Black, second place is going to be an Origin 100i, and third place will be a Mustang Alpha. And if you're the first place winner with the introduction of the Legionnaire, we will also give the option to forego the Drake Cutlass Black and take the Legionnaire instead. You can also catch the streams every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday on Twitch at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the Patreon, the merch store, or even give the video a super thanks. I greatly appreciate it, and it all goes back into the giveaways we have in order to give back to the community. Thank you again, everyone, for checking out the video. Please be safe out there, and we'll catch you next time.